Tell me about Jordan. I've heard so many wonderful things about what he liked to do. Mom, you go first.
Jordan was a really kind individual. He was very social. He was inclusive with everybody. The kid dancing around the locker room, smiling. He played sports, was very involved in sports. He was a very compassionate young man with a future ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Dad, what do you remember most about him?
His smile, his larger than life persona and attitude. He just loved being big. He just loved everything largely, and he was always, like she said, he was always polite. He was a great big brother. He was a great son. He was well respected in the community. He was respected by his teachers and his coaches and his teammates and classmates. He was an amazing athlete. He had a really, really bright future ahead of him. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So describe Marquette for me. It's small. Is it small enough that everybody kind of knows everybody? So if he were to go into a grocery store, somebody there would know him. Just describe the city.
I would say there's some of that. It's not quite small enough where everybody knows everybody. There's probably 20 to 30,000 people here. And a little bit further in some neighboring communities. But it is small enough to where, I've been around for a long time and have a pretty strong presence here. So, a lot of folks knew Jordan through me and through his mother and the things that we did in the community. So he was seen and certainly heard most of the time. So, yeah.
Was there anything that you really liked to do with him, Dad? I hear you that he was into sports, and I know both of you like sports. Was there something? Did you go fishing together? What were some things that you?
Yeah, that's all the stuff that we do in the UP. Is we do a lot of hunting and fishing, and we had ATVs and snowmobiles, and we spend time at friends' cottages and camps in the fall and the winter and the summer, and so we just did a lot of outdoor stuff. He liked to bike a lot. He got into skateboarding a little bit early on, so he did a little bit of that. But we spent a lot of time just being outdoors. We spend a lot of time doing things outdoors with the kids. So it's a beautiful UP, and we like to enjoy it as much as possible. And spending time on our boat and fishing and just all the great things that we have here. So
yeah. Mom, what will you miss the most? What have you missed the most?
His big boy hugs. Our talks in the kitchen after a day of school and work. We never really sat down all together for dinner with our chaotic schedules, but we always made it to the kitchen at some point in the evenings to talk about our days. And also the late night chats he and I would sometimes have. Either I would go up to his room and how we talk about, the things going on in life. Or sometimes he just came into my room after he finished work late at night and we talk about things.
So you had an open communication with him, both of you did, great relationship with him?
always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
And like most kids his age, he was into social media, into Instagram. Was it anything out of the ordinary, you thought, or did you know how much he used social media, or was it ever a problem?
He had social media, but we kept social media from him for a very long time. We locked his phone down. We monitored his text messages for a long time. We monitored his usage, his phone. We set all the parent restrictions through Verizon and through Apple and everything that we could do. And there was times where some of those things were getting worked around, as kids, would do, but we definitely monitored it hard. But as he got older, he was 7 weeks away from his 18th birthday. So at that point, he was already using Instagram a little bit, and I think Facebook a touch, but mostly Instagram and probably some Snapchat. But it didn't. At that point, it was like, he's going to be an adult. He can make his decisions here. So the time of our tragedy, it wasn't, the social media usage. It wasn't necessarily a huge concern at that point. So
Right. Can you talk about the day of the tragedy? What happened?
That morning, I woke up to get ready for work, and I had received a text message from Jordan. that said, "Mother, I love you," which wasn't out of the ordinary because he would stay up late, sometimes playing his games, with his friends, and he happened to be going on vacation for 2 weeks that day. So, it didn't set off any alarms in my head that he texted me during the middle of the night. But as I was getting myself ready and my daughters ready, I texted him back and he didn't respond. And when he didn't respond, I knew that something wasn't right. Mm-hmm. So initially I reached out to one of Jordan's friends and said, "Is he at school? Because he should have been at school." And they told me no. And then I reached out to John to see if Jordan was at his house.
So he was not upstairs sleeping here. He was at your house.
He was at my house.
He was at your house.
Yes, ma'am.
So she calls and then what happened?
So she messaged me in the morning and just asked, "Hey, is Jordan at your house? Did he go to school?" And I had just getting up. It was around 7:30. We were just getting up, and our girls were mingling around, getting ready for the day before school. And I kind of caught me as odd because typically he'd already been gone. School starts at like 7:20, so usually he's gone at 7:15.
Because he's got his own car. You don't have to take him to school. He's almost 18.
I don't see him during the
Right.
week.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
school,
It's
work,
typical,
practice, comes home
Sure.
at 10:30, says hi, eats something, goes to bed.
Sure.
So I got up and I peeked out the window and I saw his car in the driveway, which I thought was odd. So I'm like, oh, he slept in today. And completely not like him. I think he's only missed the bus once or twice his entire school age. So I went into his bedroom and I found him in his bedroom in his bed.
Oh, gosh. Did you, you didn't hear anything out of the ordinary that night, or?
Unfortunately, I did. He shot himself at approximately 3:45 in the morning, and I happened to be up going to the restroom at the same time, and I heard the shot, but it didn't compute with me. I was in the middle of the night, half sleeping, and it startled me, and I thought about it for a second, and it didn't sound like a gunshot for sure. It was loud, and so I didn't know if he just kicked something over in his room or spilled something or whatever, and so I just went back to bed. But hindsight, of course, that was what happened.
So you see that this has happened, there's a panic, but how do you put it together that it was something related to being bullied and the sextortion on social media?
It was a couple days. At first, those first 2 days, we had no idea. We were trying to figure out what happened.
What's going through your mind? By all accounts, this kid, he's the perfect, normal, almost 18-year-old kid. And
we were supposed to leave on a beach vacation that morning for 2 weeks. And Jordan loved the beach. It's something that we shared together. And it was one of his favorite vacations. And, the night before he was purchasing suntan lotion and ready to go on this vacation. When I last saw him at 10:15 that night, it was rolling in his bag, getting ready to go. His bags were packed in his room. We were going on vacation. And so it was just complete shock that it even happened and this was going on. And then as you start processing that, it's the big question is why. And when you ask what's going through your head, it was why. It was just why.
Right.
And we had no idea.
So a couple days passed, Mom, and you were able to put it together that it was something that happened through social media. How did that come about?
So the people that were speaking with Jordan on Instagram, they sent one of the photos to Jordan's girlfriend at the time. And she contacted us and let us know, and we let the detectives know, and they took it from there.
Oh my goodness. So these people pretended to be a girl and took pictures, or he sent pictures and money
He did. He sent them $300.
I believe he sent him money multiple times.
How long was this
Different
going on? Do we have any idea?
6 hours.
6 hours.
He received his first text message about a minute before he pulled in the driveway at 10:15 the night before, when he pulled in the driveway, we crossed paths on my in my patio out front of the house. I was running into my garage to put something in my truck, and I happened to run into him, and that was the last time I saw him before I went to bed that night. And he had just received his first text message, and all it said was hi. And it lasted till approximately midnight-ish.
That they're going back and forth.
They were grooming him for those hours. Simple conversations, slowly progressing into flirting and into more sexual type conversations, and basically got to the point where he sent a picture of himself to her. And when that happened, it was lights out. And that was a little after midnight. And then the tables turned, and the extortion happened, and the pressure, and they pushed him hard.
And you found this out about 2 days after.
Roughly.
Yeah.
And what's going through your mind, Mom, when you hear that? When you learn that this is why?
Is this real? Is this real life? How did we not know about the extortion and that this was happening? How could this happen to my son?
Did you even know it was a thing? I don't know that I even knew that this was even...
Maybe way in the back of my head, but not to this extent where they are pressuring young kids, young adults, and asking for the amounts of money that they are. I had no idea that it was going to that point.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's been a lot of scams over the years, right? It was Western Unions for a long time. It was this, it was that, and these things are always changing. And it's not a surprise that this stuff is going on. I guess I didn't realize that there was an actual term for it with sextortion. That was new to me.
Right.
So I wasn't surprised that this stuff was happening, but I was a little bit surprised that it was already labeled.
Yeah.
The FBI was already pretty well in tune with what it is and how it works. And there was bulletins that had gone out literally just weeks before Jordan died that I had never seen. So it was already ramping up into being a problem at the time. And now it's hard for me to tell if public is aware about this because I'm involved and I'm immersed in it now. But there's so many families that are victims of this. And then there's tens of thousands of families that are affected by this, and mostly private.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, and that's why we're here. Is I think we need to be the voice for the parents who either can't talk about this or maybe have some reservations about bringing this to the public. There's a lot of embarrassment in this stuff, but in our case, this is the story that needs to be told, and people need to know about this, especially parents, because they don't know what's going on on social media with their kids. They don't.
And you can take all the precautions.
All of them. Every single one.
Yeah.
If you put me in a room with 10,000 parents, I guarantee you I was the number one parent monitoring and locking things down to make sure this stuff didn't happen. And here we are today.
Mom, what's the past year been like without Jordan?
It's amazing what your body will do to get you through a situation like this. It's been extremely difficult without him here, for me, for my kids. I'm sure the same for John and his family. There's still a part of me that thinks he's gonna come through my front door. He was the only person who used the front door for the longest time. I miss him every single day. Every single day.
Dad, what's the past year been like?
Life-changing. Everything that you think matters doesn't. And not having him there, not seeing him graduate, not starting to think about having his relationships turn into marriages and grandkids soon. He would have been 19 just a couple weeks ago. And so all these things that we were kind of preparing for into the next level of life, you know, we don't get to have. And Jordan worked for me. He was, you know, he was a great young man. He was my friend. And I was looking forward to becoming more of a friend with him than a parent and taking that to the next level. And we did a lot of things together. And it's just been extremely difficult, emotionally, physically. We still have to live our lives. We still have businesses to run. We have
Other children.
Other children. We both have other families. You know, we've moved on from our home, and so we're building a new house right now. So we have that going on. We have a lot of important stuff that we're trying to get out like this today with Jordan. So there's just a lot, and it's challenging. It's emotionally draining sometimes, and but it's what needs to happen, and it's our new purpose.
Yeah.
You know, everything else is just stuff that we do in life, but this is a new purpose for us, and
Absolutely.
things have to really start to come into focus, and we have to make some change here, because Jordan's story is kind of a unicorn, right? He's almost 18 years old. He was close to being an adult, or if not an adult, in Michigan, and he was. He could have moved out that day, and I would have been totally fine with him being on his own because he was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the same thing for the 14-year-olds and the 10-year-olds and the 12-year-olds and the 16-year-olds and the 15-year-olds. And, you know, they don't stand a chance with this stuff right now that's going on, especially if their parents don't understand technology, don't use it. They're really at risk. And so things have to change.
Yeah. What do you want to see happen? Mom, what do you want to see happen? Do you want to see legislation? And certainly these three men who have are close to being extradited back here to the United States. What do you want to see happen?
I would like to see legislation go through that would hold social media companies accountable for things like this happening on their platforms. Mm-hmm. More protections in place for children. There is some pending legislation out there that is going through the Senate right now. And, you know, I've talked to our senator about that, and he's backing that bill at this time. And also, we want to just create awareness out there for parents and teens. If you think it can't happen to you, I wouldn't think that it would happen to my son, but it did. And I can't save him, but maybe we can save some other kids by sharing his story. And hopefully kids can relate to the person that Jordan was and know that if they do get into a situation, it's okay to go to an adult, go to a parent, a teacher, someone they trust, and ask for help.
Right. Because it sounds like Jordan was the kind of kid that he wouldn't want to embarrass you. He wouldn't want to, and maybe that's why he didn't feel like he could come forward. Is that what you think? Is it that, you know, he wanted to always do right, and he felt like maybe this was wrong and it would be embarrassing to his family?
That's the twisted part of this entire sextortion stuff, and that's why these criminals target these types of youth and adults, for that matter. It's happening to adults too. And it wasn't just some dude or gal sitting behind a computer in wherever doing this. This was a conspiracy. These were adult males, multiple, 3 of them, conspiring together, working together. One is talking to Jordan. One is building fake pictures. The other is a money person. All these people were working together that night to victimize Jordan. These 3 guys from the other side of the planet came into my home, was secured, while we were sleeping, and murdered my son. That's what happened. And that happened because social media platforms gave them a place to do it. And it's not just us.
Yeah.
We have dozens of families, ones that I've been texting with today, that this has happened to, the exact same thing. It's still happening. The one the mother I was texting with this morning was mid-April. Just 6-8 weeks ago.
Right. It's heartbreaking.
It's horrible.
It's awful.
It's absolutely horrible. And technology is going so fast. So much stuff is happening. If we can't get a grip on simple social media stuff, it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
We talked a
Artificial
little bit
intelligence.
we just talked
yeah.
a little bit about AI earlier.
Yeah.
You know, and there's already people that are being victimized with AI technology, and this is just the beginning. Sextortion today is the flavor of the day. A couple years from now, most people won't even know what that term is because they're going to be on to the next scam.
Yeah. And our government can't keep up with laws and
And
rules.
they can't, and most of them don't even understand it. So most of them are staying away from it with the 10-foot pole, which is unfortunate. So we need to make some change in simple changes.
Yeah.
You know, why are kids even allowed on social media?
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of that?
Right.
There's zero benefit to that.
Right.
None. Kids under 18, 17, whatever, pick a number. It shouldn't be 16, and shouldn't be 15, and sugar shouldn't be 10 or 12. They should not be on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, secret messaging apps.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That has to stop.
And that's a basic thing that they could change
Simple.
right
Tomorrow.
now.
Section 230 is a government statute that protects social media companies from being sued, basically, because they're saying, well, we don't have control of our users, so we can't be sued. And the government says, yeah, that's right. Well, that came about 15 years ago. And some people might know what Section 230 is, it's been a topic of conversation as of recently nationally.
Mm-hmm.
And our opinion is that Section 230 sounds good, but we need to put some parameters on that. Like, we'll give you that protection, but you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Like, not allow kids on your platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, verify your users.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many, if you and I sat in a room together and just went and made fake Gmail accounts and then passed it over to our next partner who took those 200 Gmail accounts and then created 500 fake social media accounts, we could do that in a couple hours.
Sure.
And then they sell those to criminals on the other side of their conspiracy, and then they go out and victimize people with them. Why? Because social media companies have zero accountability, and they don't even ask to verify their users. They're just like, yep, have an account, have an account, have
Go
17 accounts.
Yeah.
They could do simple IP address tracking. They can make simple rules where, you know, you can only have one social media account, you know, one Facebook account, one Instagram account. They can monitor those people. They could verify their identities.
Yeah.
There's all the things that they could do, but they're literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
But until they start being serious about verifying their identity of users and paying attention to what's happening on their platforms, then this stuff's going to keep happening.
You agree with all of that, sure. Anything else you want to say?
I just want to echo, you know, to the youth and the parents, to have that conversation that this is happening. Make sure who you are talking to on the social media platforms, that they are who they say they are. Even if you have some mutual friends in common, it still might not be who you think it is. Mm-hmm. So definitely have those conversations as a family, and you know, let your kids know it's okay to go to someone for help. This is much bigger than what you can handle. Just go to someone and ask for help. Your life is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd add to that too. And one thing that I took to heart is our local FBI team. We were meeting with them last year sometime, and he made a really good point. He said a lot of times what parents do is we're constantly saying no, 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 right? That's who I am. I'm like, do not do this, do not do this, do not send pictures, this is my phone, do not do this, don't. What we don't do as parents is say, but if you do, you know, and so I'm trying to be better at that as a parent with my younger girls, saying, if you do this, it's okay.
I'm still going to love you.
I'm still going to love you. I'm going to be mad. You're going to be grounded, but we're going to fix this. You know, we can fix this. And Jordan was so willful and so poised, and he just, like you said, he was just in in that position in life where he did not want to disappoint us, and he felt that the only way out of this thing was to do that. And they were pressuring him hard. They were telling him they were going to make him do this, you know. And it was just push, late at night, not thinking properly.
Yeah. And
it happened. And we just need to do everything we can do to let parents know. And I echo what she said. And we need to tell the students and the kids this too, but unfortunately they don't listen. So it's really the parent responsibility to make sure you have these conversations, at least tell them what's happening.
Right.
And tell them if they do this, this isn't your life.
Right.
And this is what I would tell Jordan today. This is not your life. You're going to graduate high school and your life is going to 180 here in about 6 months. It's going to be totally different.
Right.
You know, you're going to go to college and you're going to meet all different people. You might get married. I mean, there's all these things that happen. Then you have kids and all this life stuff happens. And I told him before in the past, I'm like, I don't hardly remember high school. Right. I'm not that old.
When you're in high school,
it's only been over for 25 years. I remember parts of it, but
right.
It's not my life, thank the Lord. You know, I'm thankful, Lord, my college life isn't my life.
Right.
So
right.
all these things happen, but young kids just can't. It's not even possible. It's not physically possible for them to think like that because they don't have those life experiences yet. So if we can tell kids that, and I think parents just need to, myself included, do a better job of reminding our kids that this isn't it. This is, you're mad right now. I know this. You're mad about the candy bar, but we're going to get over this tomorrow. We're going to do something else. We're going to move on, and it's going to be different. We're going to forget about this stuff. So I think we just need to let parents know that it's important to tell their kids if this stuff happens, if anything happens, if you do, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to react. At least put the bug in the back of their ear just so they understand. Yeah, yeah.
We appreciate you doing this so much, you know, but it's got to be tough.
It is tough to sit and talk about the things that happened to Jordan that night and think about that our son is no longer with us. But it's also the driving force behind us to do this. This is Jordan's story, and that's what motivates us to go out and tell it, to try and save someone else. I don't think that there was ever a moment where we felt embarrassed by the situation. We immediately both agreed we have to put this out there. Mm-hmm. We need to let other families know that this is happening, and we need to have it out there for our community for some healing around Jordan's passing.
Yeah. You know, when we found out after those first few days, when we found out about the message, we contacted our detective right away, and he got on it, and they started their investigation. And I think it was a day later after. It was that third day when our detective called back and finally had received the information from Instagram. That took some time. And he said, hey, this is what happened. And he read us some excerpts of the actual transcript. They had the whole transcript, part of which were detailed in the indictment that most folks have read now. And it's pretty heartbreaking. And those are the words that we heard too. And as sad as and hard as it was to hear what happened to him and feel that impact of putting myself in his shoes that night, it was very difficult. But at the same time, it was almost a relief because we had no idea. I mean, we were banging our head against the wall trying to feel like, where's he and his girlfriend going to break up? Is this a girl thing? Did he do something he wasn't supposed to do? I mean, what happened? So when we heard what happened, it's like that was the answer. Yeah. You know, it wasn't the one we wanted. It wasn't going to change anything or provide closure. It was just an answer, right? So we had the giant question mark resolved. So now it took it to the next level, and then who did this and why, and so all this stuff unfolded over the last year. But extremely difficult. But immediately we decided, her family and mine together, that we need to get a press conference out because the community, our very close community, was feeling the same sense of why. And so we're like, we have to do this for everybody else, whether we want to or not. Yeah, it's silly and embarrassing, and Jordan was not that person, and he made a mistake, but we need to let people know. Mm-hmm. And Jordan went through great lengths to hide that stuff. He erased his Instagram account. Everything was wiped.
From his phone when he
got gone. So not in the preliminary investigation, it was just a normal suicide, you know?
Yeah.
Everything was there, it was classic, and case closed until this one picture surfaced that changed everything for us.
Wow.
But it's important to get that out, and I think the community had that same sense of, okay,
Yeah.
all right, I understand. I don't like it. It doesn't change anything. It certainly doesn't make me feel any better, but I understand.
Yeah.
And so that was important, and that's been the drive for us. And as we've learned more, and the stories come out, and there's been arrests, and you know, this story is just, you know, it's a novel. You know, you can't even make this stuff up. It's unbelievable, and it's a miracle that we're here today.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that
Really is.
our FBI agents took some leadership in this and made some calls and made this thing happen.
And the fact too that this foreign nation is cooperating. They seem to be cooperating.
Very well.
Yes.
That's
Very well.
incredible.
It's
It
incredible.
Yeah.
We were fortunate because our the special agent in charge of Michigan, who's our agent's boss essentially, had relationships with specific people in the specific area of Nigeria that they had worked together previously 20 years ago when they were young in their careers, when he was stationed in Nigeria, working with those young agents who were Nigerian FBI agents. So the whole moon and the stars aligned for us, and we're so thankful that happened. And I truly believe that those relationships helped
to
get that stuff pushed to the point where we are today, because it would have been so easy to just,
Yeah.
oh, we're in a dead end, or this is just, this
Nothing
is
we can
tough.
do
We're not
there.
going to spend money on
Right.
flights to send
Right.
agents to interview. We can't afford that. You know, all those things come up, and so we've gotten so far with this that we have to share. We have to tell people. We have to tell this story. You know, and Jordan deserves this too. You know, this is vindication for him, and I tell him every day that you got duped, but we're gonna save hundreds, if not thousands,
Make sure
of
it
lives
doesn't happen.
because of what you did.
Yeah.
Once they investigated just Jordan's case, when they went into Jordan's case and then peeled back the layers of the onion, found out who these guys were, and then reverse tracked all their fake accounts and all their IP addresses and stuff, then they found out who all the people they were victimizing. There's hundreds of them. I know 130 or something like that. So Jordan wasn't the only one that night. So they're just out banging on all these doors until someone bites. And then they start narrowing it down. They probably had 3 or 4 people that night they were working
And
on.
once you bite, so Jordan just bit a little more.
Yeah, he's talking to Jordan. He's talking to this person. He's talking to that person. Then other people in the background are going through and researching Jordan and these other people and finding out their connections. And then he's pulling off Jordan's best friend because he's got 1,700 photos with him. And then they probably try to track, you know, it's just, it goes on until they get money or until they kill somebody.
I just think when I think about this, you know, how would they just pick Jordan? Why Jordan? And your answer was perfect. Is look at him. He's a good-looking kid. He's got all these things going for him. So just, you know, talk about that again. He's on the football team. He's all these things.
He played sports. He had several pictures with friends, with his girlfriend. He was the homecoming king. Just your average teenage kid.
Yeah.
He had the long, fluffy hair, and he was 6'2", and he was well in shape, and he was just a handsome dude. And so when these criminals are picking their victims, Jordan is the perfect victim. He really was. He's the all-American kid.
Yeah.
And it looked like he had everything together, and he did. And they capitalize on that. And those are the pinch points where they go in and professionally victimize and extort. That's how they do it.
Yeah. Wonder if they have a software program or something that helps them to. I mean, I guess you wouldn't need it because, like you said, you and I could sit down in the middle of the night and find the connections. They knew who his girlfriend was based off of his friends list.
It was obvious.
Yeah.
They went onto his girlfriend's page. Jordan was all over it.
Right, all over her page.
His best
And it's
friend's
just-
page, he's all over this page.
You go
And
down this
pictures
rabbit hole.
together, and
Yeah.
You go off in all these
Yeah.
places, and they just start victimizing people until someone bites.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything, you can't be victimized. So
Right.
They
Right.
pick out the ones that have things to lose. They appear to have life in order, and they find that person. They profile that person to to be in a box where if this happens to them, they know that they have to give money,
Right.
or else their whole life is over.
And they did this over the span of just 6 hours. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. You've actually talked to other families who have gone through this. How does that make you feel to know that other families are being victimized and that you're able to talk to them about your story, Mom?
We've talked to families who have gone through this and also lost their child. And that part is devastating to me, that we've felt the same feelings over the loss of a child in this situation. But we've also talked to families who their child did go to them for help. They heard about Jordan's story and a light bulb went off. Even though they got to that point and they may have sent photos, a light bulb went off in their head and they were like, oh yeah, this happened to that kid, that Jordan kid. I need to go and get help. And they've done it. And, I think for us, that reassures us that we're doing the right thing by speaking out about it, so that kids remember his story.
Yeah, it's extremely important to get that story out for those reasons. And unfortunately, there are some stories that we've heard where the kids knew Jordan personally, knew his story, and still did this, and were victimized financially, and ended up coming clean about it later. After Jordan, after knowing him, after knowing his story, the kids are still doing it. So that's an even more powerful driver for me, because we just have to push this harder, faster, longer, broader. But it's humbling for all the other stories that we've heard and all the other families, for two reasons. One, because it gives us some purpose that it's working and that Jordan's saving lives. And the other part is that we feel like we can be a voice for some of the parents who can't speak about this for reasons, they're under investigation on their side, so they're not talking like, we did for the entire year. And some parents are just trying to keep it quiet for reasons. And so we just feel that we can be that voice for them as well.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough for doing this, really. It needs to be told.
It feels good. I mean, when we hear those stories. I was in Nashville with my wife and some friends last year, and I had a friend who's a gubernatorial candidate for Michigan, and he had pretty strong following, and he had messaged me one morning early when I was having breakfast, and he told me that he did a story to his people on a podcast, and somebody had reached out to him that listened to it and said that he had a student came to him. He was a coach, and he had an athlete student that came to him and told him that, I appreciate you telling me the story. This happened to me. I don't know what to do. So he relayed that to me,
saved.
And it was just like, this is why we're doing it.
Yep, that life could be saved.
Yeah, and those stories keep coming every week from all across the world.
Every week.
Yeah. Local, state, out of state, everywhere.
Yeah. 6 hours is not a long time, and you mentioned it's less than that. Sometimes it's 3 hours.
Yeah, Jordan's case was a little bit longer than most of these tragedies that we've heard. They've been a little bit quicker, but there is some things that parents can do to help mitigate this, even with just basic social media and technology awareness. But the one thing that was shared with us by the FBI, which was something I didn't really consider at the time either, that I also took to heart, was we need to be better at not allowing our kids to be seclusive on their devices, meaning not in their bedrooms, not in the basement, not out in the garage, not in the treehouse. When you're allowing your children to be on social media, if you are, or at least even being on technology, it should be in the living room where everybody else is, in the kitchen, at the table, places where they're not quiet and inclusive by themselves, because that's when they become victimized, and that's when they start shutting down and they don't know how to handle things. So we need to be upfront, let children use the stuff, but let's do some things like not allowing them to be buried in their rooms doing it privately.
And that's a simple thing that
Simple
everybody
thing that
can
every
do.
parent can do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And Jordan, again, he was well old enough to be in his room with his phone.
Yeah, that's what you...
But my 2 young girls will never, ever have a
Sure.
TV
Sure.
or an electronic device past their bedroom hallway, ever.
Yeah.
That will never go past that threshold.
Not even a TV, no
Not a
screens, no
TV,
device
zero
of any
screen. Their
time.
bedrooms
No
are
video
for homework
game.
and sleeping. Yeah.
Smart.
As a mom, I think it's a shame that these 4 young lives are being ruined because of this senseless act that was just not necessary. And when I say 4, I mean Jordan and the 3 young men.
2 of which were brothers.
I saw they had the same last name.
There's another
yeah.
mother out there that is going
Right.
to potentially lose 2 of her children.
And that, as a mother, breaks my heart that she's going to feel just a blip of what I feel. But mine's permanent. I'm never
Right.
going to
See
speak
you.
to my son again. So I know that the day that we can face these people is going to be truly emotional, and I'm not ready to let myself think that way
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Dad, I mean, the way you put it, it's so true. These 3 young men basically came into your son's room in the middle of the night and murdered him. And you might get the opportunity to look at them across in a courtroom or see who they are. What do you think about that possibility?
Oh, I know I will be. I know that will happen. And I don't know how I'll feel about it. I know how I feel internally about it right now, and as a father and as a grieving father, and but I believe in the justice system. I haven't put a lot of pressure on myself to answer those questions right now. Same thing Jennifer explained. It's that part of the story is already in motion, and we have no control over that part of the story at this point. We've done everything we could do to get to where we are today, but that's going to play out, and it's going to be most likely a guilty verdict. And it sounds like the case, from the little that we know, is pretty solid, and I can't imagine that they would spend all this resource and not have a pretty solid case. But we will get to see him, we will get to meet him, and it's going to be extremely difficult, but it's something I need to do too, as part of my process. I like to have all of my things crossed off, and so I feel comfortable with what's happening. And but as a father, I'd want to tear his face off, but unfortunately that's not how it works here. And thankful for them.